Money Smart Month is a community education initiative sponsored by the St. Louis Regional Financial Empowerment Coalition with in-kind support from United Way. The events are also made possible by our funders, which includes Stifel Bank, Commerce Bank, First Mid Bank, Montgomery Bank, and many others. At the end of the program, we will ask you to complete a survey, and the link will be placed in the chat. We're going to go ahead. I'm just so happy to be joined by our partner, Grow with Google, and our presenter, Keisha Mabry Haymore, who is a Grow with Google digital coach, and some guests. So hello, Keisha.
Hey friends, hey, thank you so much, Angela. It's always really cool to partner. And again, friends, things happen. Tech be our friend, then it be our frenemy, okay? But we gonna make it work because tonight is so exciting. I'm so excited to be joined by Angela, partnering with the St. Louis County Library again, and our amazing speakers tonight, which are Ashley, Keisha, and Christian, and friends. When I tell you they're amazing, they are authors, they are ghostwriters, they are publishers. So we're gonna get into seeking financing because whether you are publishing a book or growing a brand or a business, you're gonna need some financing, okay? So we're gonna workshop how to seek financing, and then we're gonna get straight into our panel of amazingness. And we're gonna end probably a little bit later tonight at 7:15, if you're okay with that, okay? If you can stay an extra 15 minutes with us, that would be amazing. So I am going to share my screen. Angela, please be on the lookout for Ashley. Hopefully she's popping in soon so we can get her on, and then we'll go from there. Friends, any questions before we get started? Or how y'all feeling on this crazy rainy day? Y'all feeling good? I hope so, because I'm feeling amazing because this is an awesome panel. Okay, so let me get my stuff set up and then we're gonna get going. For those who don't know, my name is Keisha Mabry Haymore. I am the Grow with Google digital coach for Missouri. And I am always available via IM, DM. It may take me a week or two to respond, but Grow with Google is a free initiative that's all about helping you grow your brand and business. And that's our goal. We also like to invite friends. So we're always trying to get at least 50 people on. So if you have anyone else that could benefit from this, please always invite them. And then as always, if you have questions after the fact, I can be reached on social at Keisha Mabry or at the Digital Coaches Program, and via email as well. Okay, so let's talk about getting yourself out there, because again, I don't care if it's a book, a brand, or a business, you're gonna have to get yourself out there. So tonight we're gonna talk about how you can seek financing for your different businesses and book and projects. And then we're gonna talk about sales. Because if you are a self-publisher and if you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna have to learn how to sell. And then last but not least, we're gonna talk about how you can negotiate and overcome objections. And then we're gonna get into our panel. So let's start with seeking financing, okay? So a mentor once told me this, and I didn't get it, but man, when I tell you they are telling the truth, they're telling the truth. If you ask for advice, you get money. And if you ask for money, you get advice. That sounds crazy, right? But it's so true. And the reason being is because investors, whether they are your family or friends, angel investors, venture capitalists, they want to be on this journey with you. So they want to give you advice before they give you money, right? So if you ask for advice, you get the money because it makes them feel like you're coachable. And everybody wants to invest in someone that's coachable, someone that's going to take feedback and apply it. And that's why this quote is so true. The other thing about investors, they want to build a relationship with you first. I always say, if you build the relationship before you need it, it will be there when needed. And this quote speaks to that, right? Building a relationship, getting advice is something that you do over time. People don't like for you to ask for the money when you need it because it doesn't make them feel like you're coachable, and it can make them feel used. And no one likes to feel used, right? So it's important for you to think this way. Ask for the advice, I get money. Ask for the money, I get advice, right? So build that relationship before you need it, and it will be there when needed. So here's an investor cheat sheet. So again, I don't care if you're thinking about this as, I just want to write a book. I don't care if you're thinking about this as I want to grow my brand or business, you're going to need some financing. And so when you think about your investors, you want to think about these things. Number one, you want to explore different types of funding because not all funding is right for you, right? Some people may get funded through family and friends. Some people may get funded through crowdfunding and crowd lending. Some people may get funded through angel investment, venture capital. And then there's this new wave of investment called revenue-based funding, which is based on your sales and revenue. And then some people may get funded through a CDFI, which is typically like a community bank, or a traditional bigger bank, right? So it's important for you to explore all the avenues and what makes sense for how you're going to use the money, right? If you haven't thought about how you're going to use the money when you get it, you want to think about that first. And you want to think about how you're going to pay it back if it's not a grant, right? So all of these things are wrapped up into number one. Then number two, you see that keyword, that advisors, mentors, those are people who can give you advice. Sponsors, right? Ask for advice, you get the money, remember? And then three, you got to get comfortable networking, which is a matter of putting yourself out there. Demonstrate why you should get this money, and then don't limit yourself, right? Explore all the possibilities. So these are just some things to think about when you're seeking financing, regardless of the reason, right? It can be a brand, a business, or a book, okay? Questions, thoughts, aha moments. How y'all feeling? Has anybody ever sought financing before, and what was your experience? And I won't make you talk. All right, I'm gonna call on somebody before the end of this, so be prepared. The other thing about putting yourself out there is learning how to sell. And whether you're an entrepreneur, a writer, a budding book publisher, if you are self-publishing in any way, and even if you have a business or a brand, you have to learn how to sell. And for a lot of people, sales makes them feel, wow. What about you all, friends? Are you comfortable with sales? Let me know in the chat. So how do sales make you feel? A lot of people say, I don't want to feel sold, right? I don't want to feel like a used car salesman. And that's not sales at all. Sales can be very relational. It can be a matter of solving a problem, right? Demonstrating value and need. All of those things are sales. 15 years in is still iffy about sales. Yeah, friend, I get it. Tiffany says, I love sales, right? Because sales equal money. Okay. So yes, I love sales too, but just I'm in the middle. Like I love it, but I can feel iffy about it, right? Tara says, I don't like the word no. Dana says, I don't want to always be asking for something, right? So take all of that into how you think about sales, and then think about how you want people to feel who you are selling to, right? One way you can do that is establish your authority and credibility, right? People like to buy from subject matter experts. You can sell by creating content and being a subject matter expert. And then people get really excited because they're like, ooh, look at this guru. I want to buy from the expert, right? And your content sells for you, right? Leslie says, I'm a giver. Absolutely. Being a giver allows people to see you as a subject matter expert. The other thing is don't overwhelm yourself with options. There's like a million ways that you could sell. But the key here is to find out what sales strategy aligns most with your target market, right? Do they want to be sold through email? Do they like more in-person connection, right? Where you're calling them. So think about the options that make sense for you and your target market. And then educate yourself, right? If you do nothing, then you get nothing, right? So it's important for you to educate yourself on the type of sales that make sense for you and your customer, as mentioned. Understanding your customer's perspectives, like all the things you all just put in chat. You want someone who's a giver. You don't want someone who's pushy. Like, again, take that into the way you think about sales. Don't be afraid of the silence. Oh, this was such a lesson for me. Silence doesn't always mean no. It can mean I'm thinking, right? So if you reach out to someone to sell them and you hear nothing back, be okay with that. And then just get in the routine of following up. And then what we're going to learn next is how to deal with that objection if there is an objection. But silence doesn't always mean a no or or an objection, right? It can mean I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out how to pay you, okay? And then ask for the commitment. Sometimes people are ready to buy from us and we never say, can you buy from us or will you buy from us, right? Be okay asking for people to buy from you. So just a cheat sheet to think about. And then last but not least, negotiating and closing them deals, right? So there's typically 5 reasons people say no to you or not now. Number 1, they don't have the budget. So for you, it's so important for you to figure out how they can pay for it, right? Understanding budgeting and budget line items of your target customer can help you. So say for instance, you're trying to sell to a school district and you're like, I wonder how my product or service aligns with the goals of the school district, right? So for me, I'm teaching people about networking and connecting. So I may ask myself, who at the school would want to know that? Or who at the school would want to pay for that, right? It takes me to the counselors, right? So like the counselors will want to pay for this because I can pitch it as networking, connecting, preparing students for college. And I know preparing students for college is a goal and a measure of impact and success that a counselor in a school district has. And so then my mind will take me to what budget line item aligns with this, right? And so educating yourself on the budget of your target customer and who you're pitching to is huge. And if you don't know this, just find a friend and ask them, right? So understanding the budget is huge because you can show people how to pay for the product and service that you have, right? So again, whether this is a book, a business, product, service, you need to know budgeting. The next thing that you may have to overcome is the objection of, I don't need this. And that just means you haven't done a good job of showing value, showing how you solve the problem, showing how people could use your service or your product. You may have to demo it for people, right? So getting creative with how you show your value is huge for overcoming this. Number 3 is lack of experience. Like, I didn't realize you offered this service, right? I think it can be easy to think that everyone in the world knows about us, but they don't. Like, there really is a customer journey that starts with making people aware. Once people are aware, they go through a consideration phase, right? Let me ask you this. How many people have something in a cart online? I know you do. It's an outfit, it's a body wash, it's something, right? I keep a cart on Target.com, right? That is called the consideration phase, right? And so our customers go through that as well. And you have to think through how you push them through that journey. So again, there's awareness, consideration, then purchase. I know Dana and Tiffany, I know y'all got carts on carts on carts. Carol, I know you do too, right? That's consideration. And all of our customers go through that. It doesn't go from awareness to purchase. Don't forget about that consideration phase and what you can do to persuade them while they're in it, right? Think about how people persuade you, right? Target, what does Target do? They send you that follow-up email. Did you forget something in your cart? Like, no, I didn't forget it. I know it's in there, right? But that's them pushing me through the purchase life cycle. Think about how you can do that for your small business as well. Number 4, you're not a priority or there's no urgency there, right? Like, people try to create urgency with sales, with limited time offers, with discounts, things like that. If none of that is attached to what you're selling, it doesn't make people want to act quickly, right? So how can you create urgency to overcome this objection? And then the other piece is not understanding or not fully trusting yet, right? Like, it takes time for us to earn our money, right? We have to work a full day. We have to work a full week. Some of us get paid every other week, right? So getting us to come spend that money and come out of our pocket takes trust, right? And so figuring out how you can build in that relationship building with your customers over time is huge when it comes to overcoming this objection, okay? So those are some things that you can think about and do when it comes to being a small business. Again, whether you want to grow a brand or business or sell books, because as a self-published author, you're going to have to do this, okay? Thoughts, questions, aha moments. How y'all feeling? What resonated with you all most?
Sorry. Oh, am I loud?
Mm-mm.
Ooh. Okay. I think the biggest thing for me is the consideration phase. I never thought about that, I guess, in terms of my business, like I do with shopping. So that's a lot to think about.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us do, like, and we forget as consumers, we do it too, right? Like things sitting in a cart for us, that is consideration, right? So really understanding the customer journey from awareness to consideration to purchase. And then even after purchase, the most beautiful thing is retention, right? Bringing the person back, because research shows once people buy from us, they're willing to buy again, but we often focus on the new customer versus the one that's already there, right? So thanks for sharing that, Christian. Absolutely. Dana said aha moment was help them find the budget line item. Yes. When I was actively speaking, which I don't speak as much anymore, because I got a whole baby, but the thing when I was pitching people that was the most powerful closing on my sales cycle was telling them where to pull the money to pay me. And they were like, oh, I didn't even think about that. You so right. I'm like, yes, friend, you can pull this from this budget line item, right? And this is how this service achieves this goal for your organization, right? So that's a service approach. But even from a product approach, you can do the same thing. Help them figure out how they can pay for it, the value add that you have, and then how what you're offering solves a problem, right? It's the same thing. Tara says objections are a blessing. This is a very different perspective. They really are, because an objection is just helping you figure out what people are saying no to. And once you figure out what they're saying no to, you can respond. So the key here is to not let the no discourage you, but let the no turn you into a detective, to be like, okay, why are you saying no? No budget, no worries. Guess where this can come from, right? You don't need this now. Let's talk about when you could need it, right? So like it should be the beginning of a series of conversations from you versus the ending of a conversation. Love it. Getting down to the bottom of the objection, absolutely. Creating a sense of prioritization. Yes, friends, like think about it. Like for instance, in my email right now, there are probably 10 invites to parties and 10 launches of things that my friends have, like new products and services that they have launched. I don't need to deal with that right now. Like I got a whole baby, I got a whole job. None of it's happening this week. So I've ignored it, right? And if they don't send me a reminder, I'm probably going to forget it because none of it matters right now, right? Like just think about all the things that you have going on. And then on top of that, you're getting sold to constantly. Unless they made it urgent to matter right now, it gets pushed to the back burner, which is not a bad thing. It's just the way that we're processing, right? Like as people, to be able to manage everything that's going on in our life, we have to prioritize things. And unless people make it urgent to prioritize, what's the point of prioritizing it? It's like the one less thing on my checklist, right? One less thing on my to-do list. So I'm not going to think about it. So your customers or potential customers are the same way, which is why reminders are not bad. Like oftentimes as business owners are like, I'm not going to bother them. Guess what? Not bothering them may mean you're not going to get the sale. So get in the habit of reminding people. Don't think it's a bother. It's a reminder, and it's putting your business and your products and services front and center and making it a priority. The other thing someone said is the objection shows you what you are not doing in your presentation. Absolutely. And something that you want to get into is asking people why they didn't buy, right? Whether you are doing an in-person presentation or not, like at the end of it, if it's in person, be like, are there any hesitations, right? So that you can deal with the objections. If you see that someone has put something in their cart but didn't buy it from you, what you want to do on your website is turn on the feature that allows you to remind people if they have things in their cart but never purchased it, right? And then if it's like weeks and months pass, what you can do is just send a follow-up email like, I noticed that you didn't purchase X, Y, and Z. May I ask why, right? asking those questions, probing, can help you overcome those objections because you know why they didn't do it or why they didn't buy it, okay? Sell the benefit, not the item. Absolutely, friends, you should never sell the item. It's always a benefit. We buy solutions. We don't buy products or services, we're buying solutions. So sell the benefit and the solution. So good, I'm trying not to be a nuisance, and the fact they are just not thinking about this right now. Yes, we're not, right? So unless it's something that's driving us to act, we're not gonna act. All good stuff, you all are dope. And on that note, there's different types of negotiation fundamentals to think about as you're negotiating and overcoming these objections. Number one is the pie principle. So with this approach, it's a change in price, right? So another thing with the budget, say you find the budget line item and still someone's like, oh, I can't afford this. Try changing your scope, right? Change how much of the product and service you offer them. So if you are a product business, maybe you start with a sample. Like if you can't buy the entire product, maybe you need to create smaller sizes so that people can test drive and try you out for a little bit, right? Think about the car. We often don't just go buy a new car, we test drive it first. So how can people test drive your products and services and pay a little bit less and then work up to like the full product and service, right? That's called the pie principle. Change the scope, change the size to see if that affects if people will buy. The other fundamental or strategy is negotiate the value. So again, we are too busy selling items and products, not the value that they bring. People want to know the value. How's this going to save me time, save me money, make me time, make me money, make me happier, make me less sad? Like that's typically the things that you're really selling. Convenience, patience, confidence. You're not really selling shampoo. You're selling beauty, confidence, right? So sell the value. And then the other strategy is know the BATNA. So set clear guidelines for what you will and won't agree to and what your minimum requirements are, right? So one thing I like to do with this strategy, say I choose to discount something, I will not discount it beyond this clause for myself, right? And as a speaker, I will only do 3 speaking engagements for free. Like that's my limit. Once I do the 3 for free throughout the year, I don't do any more. And then if I choose to discount anything, any service throughout the year, even on the invoice, I show them what the full price is, right? You want to get people in the habit of seeing the value, and you want to get really clear on what your minimum requirements are and what you will not sacrifice, right? So you set your guidelines. So even if you discount a product or service, make sure that people still know the full value of it and that you note the discount on the invoice or however people pay for it. It could even be on your website, whatever it is, but they need to know the full price, and you need to have some guidelines and requirements for yourself so that you don't be out here running a business and not making no money, okay? And we talked about some case studies. So again, a response that says we're not sure could be the objection of they don't know the value or they don't see the need, right? So get really clever about listening, because what they're saying may not be what they're saying, right? So I'm not sure could really mean you haven't done a good enough job of explaining the value. Can't we just pay someone else to do this? Or I don't think I need to hire for this or buy this. Could mean I don't understand. I don't trust you yet, right? So again, listen to listen. And then we can't afford this may mean I just don't know how to pay for this, right? And you can get really creative with like how you sell them by really understanding their budgeting and the different things that they want to accomplish throughout the year. And that's how you get through it, friends. So again, overcoming objections is about listening and then really understanding what they're saying. And then just really understanding their business model, their goals, their dreams, their impact, their budgeting, so that you could provide a response to the objection and sell your products and services, because that's what it's about. So on that note, your action plan, friends, what's the number one thing that you're going to do in the next 24 hours. And the number one thing you're going to do in the next 3 months. Share in the chat and let me know. And then we're going to transition to our amazing panel. So one thing you're going to do in the next 24 hours, let me know in the chat. And then what are you going to do in the next 3 months? I said 24 months. Jesus, 3 months. Open my abandoned cart feature within. Yes, friend, open that abandoned cart because we just need reminders. Okay, we all got a cart somewhere. Go back to a no and ask differently using a strategy. I love that. Go back to a no. And then the other thing you want to get in the habit of is understand why people say yes. Like, why are people saying yes to you? Do you ask after people buy why they bought? Have you ever sat down and done a focus group with your loyal customers to understand why they stay buying from you? Because they're going to teach you how to speak consumer language for your products and services. And they're going to share stories that you can then use to overcome objections, right? So in addition to getting clear on why people say no, get really clear on why people say yes too. You make overcoming objections sound so easy. I'm about to find, they are, because here's the thing. What makes them easy, Sierra, is just understanding why people said the no, right? We often hear the no and get like really disheartened, and then we move on to the next person versus going back to the no and being like, why did you say no, right? Practice objectives. Yes, Carol. Markle, I do this often. Perfect. Christian, next 3 months, create an alternative exit survey. Yes, that exit survey is huge. And the other cool thing that an exit survey can do is like, I noticed that you didn't buy from us. I would love to give your feedback. If you take, 2 to 3 minutes to provide it, you can even provide a discount code in there to invite them back to purchase, right? Here's a discount code for when you do choose to use us, right? So you can kind of, get 2 things accomplished at once, like understand their no and then invite them back to purchase. Another powerful thing that you can do, and this varies depending on how big purchase amount, what the purchase amount is for your product or service. Invite people to have a 5-minute conversation with you. Oftentimes we try to overcome objections via text. We're emailing back and forth with people or DMing back and forth. If someone who is like a high priority for you to close gives you an objection, invite them to a conversation. It's so much easier to overcome objections via a phone call than it is via text, okay? Because they can get a feel for your personality. You can really sell them on the value. So invite them to a 5-minute call. I did this a few times when I was trying to pitch like a really big client. Just hopping on the phone with them, I was able to close the deal way easier, right? Versus just trying to do everything through email. The phone works. I know a lot of people don't know what the phone is or what a phone call is other than text message, but we used to make phone calls back in the day, okay? Pick up the phone. Siobhan said, jotting down some open-ended questions to get to the root of the objection. Good stuff. Dana says, going back to those who bought my planner and ask how they are using it. Yes, because here's the thing. Getting those stories from people who said yes are case studies, right? Like, how are you using this? How is this adding value for you? How is this impacting your life? And you can use those case studies as testimonies and as stories to overcome objections. Tara says, ask 2 clients that said no why they said no. Love it. Tiffany says, aha moment, asking why people say yes. Yep, ask why people say yes. There is a really cool way to do this called jobs to be done. It's a way to approach focus groups to understand why people say yes. So jobs to be done, Google it. Carol says, sell the value, not the service. Absolutely, it's always about the value. And then 24 hours, rewrite down the benefits to add a sense of urgency. Yes, sense of urgency is huge because we got a lot going on. And then 3 months, create ways to invite people back to purchase. Yeah, another thing is just like, what can you do to create a loyalty, right? Can you have like a club where people who purchase, a certain amount get into this club, and maybe they get a quarterly call with you or annual call with you. Like, people often just want access to you. Another thing, can people who are loyal get like an exclusive, right? Like a sneak peek of what you got coming up, or maybe you make a special product or service that only they get, right? Like little things that you can do that probably don't cost you much time or money, that can make people feel really special for supporting you. Think through things like that. In 24 hours, I will send reminders. I have my product available this week. Yes, send those reminders because we don't know. We need them. Create incentivized referral programs. Absolutely. Like even for this, right? Like how many reminders did y'all get for this one, right? Like I sent crazy emails. I had to post it on social. I had to send you a calendar invite, right? There's at least 3 ways that I contacted you about this one workshop, right? Think about that. Like how many ways can you get your product and services in front of people because we need those reminders, right? All great stuff. And that, friends, is the end of the presentation, but it's not the end of the value, okay? Because we are about to, here, let me stop sharing my screen, introduce your speakers because I'm gonna be quiet. And here's the thing, this is your panel. So whatever questions you have about the writing process, the book publishing process, now is the time to ask. Before we get into the panel, Angela, anything you wanna add before we kick it over to the panel?
No, I don't have anything to add. Sounds great. I can't wait to hear more.
Awesome sauce. Well, Christian and Dr. Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. Would love for you all to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to get into some Q&A.
Okay, I am Christian Cashel. I am the owner of Dynamic Image Publications, which is an independent publishing company in the St. Louis metro area. I have been, we've been in business since 2006. I'm also an editor, and I also help people self-publish. I am a nine-time published author. And I focus more so on other people's work, helping them get their book babies birthed and just making sure it's polished and as professional as possible. Even if you're self-publishing, you want to make sure that you're up to industry standards. So that's kind of where I like to focus on.
Awesome. My name is Dr. Ashley Little. I'm an award-winning serial entrepreneur, and 2 of my companies are successful publishing companies. I have a Little Publishing LLC where I help aspiring authors, new authors, seasoned authors, write their stories, do book coaching, take you from beginning to end, and also create your marketing strategy because a lot of people miss that part. They write a book and it sit on the shelves, no marketing strategies. How are you going to make money, right? So we create a marketing strategy and we actually do it because I do PR marketing too. So we get our people out there in front of these outlets and in these different features to be able to bring more money to you, to be able to get that exposure that you're going to need to be successful. And I'm also the CEO, founder, and visionary author of the HBCU Experience Movement LLC. We are the first Black-owned publishing company to publish prominent HBCU alumni stories throughout the world. And so we've done about 12 books so far with different HBCUs, and we're creating endowments as well to give back, to create scholarships to help students continue to go to school financially. So not only are we sharing the stories, but we're creating those endowments. And I am a 16-time best-selling author. So I'm excited to be here tonight.
Love it. Y'all hear these gems? All this value in the room. Woo! Y'all, if y'all don't ask these questions, I'm gonna be mad at y'all. So, friends, let's just kick it off here. How do you get started? Like, I feel like I have written 1 book and I definitely self-published. It was a crazy experience. I loved every minute of it. I wrote my book in 100 days because I'm just crazy. And like both of you all said, had to figure out my own marketing strategy. And the question people often ask me is how to get started. Carol asked a follow-up question that I get often as well, is like, how often should you write? So yes, how do you get started and how do you get the book written?
They just get started. A lot of people miss that part. You just get started. That's really what you do. You just start writing. You don't worry about it being perfect. You just write. It does not have to make sense at all, right? It's gonna sound weird, but get it all out on paper first. Get it all out on paper, then go back and then figure out what you want. But you first need to start writing and take the perfectionist out of it, right? And just write, let your mind go so far. It can go, just let it go. and just write. That's what I would tell anybody. Just get started.
I definitely say the same thing and people hate it because my coaching program is called
Yeah.
Just Right because it's like it's really not as hard as you think. I also tell people if you need to start with an outline, a lot of people also do those because of writer's block. Outline will help you keep track of what you're wanting to talk about. You don't have to stick to it. But what I equate it to is like a movie script. They don't film movies in order. They don't film movies from beginning to end. So if you have an outline and you see chapter 13 is something right in your head that you can think of right now, start there until you get the flow of everything else. So you're not just saying, well, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to write it all. And then you don't have anything to work with. But I definitely agree with Dr. Ashley. Get it all out. That's what editors are for. That's what your publisher is for. They will make it make sense. But you just have to write it. If it's not on the paper, then it's not going to help.
No, I love that. And like for me, I was doing the same thing. Like in the beginning, it took me like a full week to get started because I kept trying to write the book. And I just had to tell myself, you are not writing the book. You're just getting your ideas out there. So I switched from typing to writing thoughts on index cards. So every time I had a thought, I wrote it on the index card. And then my first pass in my book was like 200 index cards that I typed up and it was a book, right? So for me, it's just like, yes, you're not sitting to write a book. You're sitting to just get your ideas out there and the book will form itself. Love the advice. A few questions in the chat. Carol says, how often should you write and are there topics you should avoid?
Well, everybody's different, right? You know, for people who are more seasoned, you know, they might take an hour a day and take an hour out of their day and write, right? For people who are new to this, I tell you start, 30 minutes. Give yourself 30 minutes a day and write, take out 30 minutes of your day and just write. That's what I would give to new authors. Seasoned authors, you can move up to the hour, a day that you have that slotted hour for you just to write. But that's what I would say, you don't have to go in and think you have to have the book written in 2 days or something like that. No, you can take it in chunks, right? Do it in chunks. So I would say that.
Yeah, I tell my new authors 20 to 30 minutes a day, at least 3 times a week. Because what you'll find is once you start writing, you'll look up and it's an hour later, once you get in the flow of it, right? But you have to commit if you have a deadline. I also do schedules. So if you tell me you want your book done in 60 days, then I'm going to give you this schedule and say, this is what you have to stick to write it. If you're just kind of free flowing, then you can kind of play it by ear. So it just depends on your goal.
Yeah, I agree with the homework. I definitely do the homework. If you have this 60-day process, then you have homework. Your first chapter is due the following Sunday, and then we're gonna keep going. The next chapter is due the next week, right? So yeah.
Oh, and the topics to avoid, I would say nothing is a topic to avoid. Everything that you're thinking that needs to be written or that's in your head, it needs to be written. Somebody else needs to hear it. It just comes into play if you're doing nonfiction, you want to be careful how much information you give about other people. But if you're telling your story, there's nothing avoidable to me.
And I like what you said about other people. If you're gonna write about other people, hopefully you're using a fake name or you're getting their permission. Because I've seen that go left, not from me doing it, but I've seen it where I've had clients come to me to fix stuff that went left with other places. So yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's right. I love it. Other questions. Okay, Carol says, did you state a tip before to name your characters?
I didn't, but I do have a tip for that. So think about your setting, the personality. I do the personality of my characters before I name them. Think about the time period. Does the name make sense for when they were born? Just little things, little characteristics. Sometimes names just pop into my head. But just think about the overall setting and the time period for and Google. Look, I'm all on Google, like what's popular names in 1987, like just play around with it and see what works. And you don't have to stick with a name. If you start with one name before and then the final draft, you decide to change it, go ahead, do what you want.
Dr. Little, anything to add for character naming, especially if it's like real, you gotta change the name?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Christian said as well with that. And also, definitely Google is definitely a great place to start with looking for character names and figuring out that process. But also that doesn't have to be perfect either. You might start out with certain characters and as you continue to write, and they might change, right? So just be open to being flexible is what I tell everybody. Be flexible. Understand that things are going to change. Outlines are going to change. Stories are going to change. Settings are going to change. The whole book might change. Just be flexible.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, friends, someone said, how long are we gonna meet today? We'll probably meet for 10 to 15 more minutes, wrap up around 7:15. But right now, let's take advantage because Christian and Dr. Ashley are amazing. So a few more questions. Does the topic influence which bookstores you place the books in? How do you decide which marketing or marketplaces to utilize?
Well, go ahead, Christian.
No, I was just gonna say, I believe so. If you're self-publishing, you definitely, I won't say not to go to bookstores that may not have your topic, but the ones that do are gonna be the ones you hit first because they're gonna be more open to carrying your book. And then that way you have leverage with the other bookstores. Like, hey, you all don't really show this topic, but I have this book in 4 other bookstores. Would you think about carrying it? Because they're gonna say, oh, it's a popular book and we can make money off of it. But you definitely want to start with places that have your topic on display. And what was the other part of the question? How do you decide what marketplace to use? All of them.
Yeah.
You're gonna write a book, put it on everything if you can. So things do get a little pricey if you're self-publishing, but audiobooks, Kindle, all of that, make sure your book is available where people purchase books. It's just
And I agree with that on top of, when you're going, I like she said, go with your topics are at, but also I said don't leave anything on the table. Just pitch, right? Because you're gonna have to pitch these bookstores anyway, and they're gonna ask you certain questions. They're gonna ask you to send them a copy, some of them, so they can see if they want to do it, right? So I would say don't leave anything on the table. Go ahead and still pitch to whoever you want to them to go. Another great way, and I do agree with Christian, was put it everywhere, right? Ingram Sparks is where you can get them in online bookstores, right? And they'll decide which bookstore to decide which one they're going to pick up, whether it be Barnes and Noble, whether it be it's different ones on there, right? So Ingram Sparks is a good one. Amazon, of course, put them everywhere where you'll be able to get that exposure. And then, as I stated, definitely go pitch because you never know what might happen when you pitch it. So don't leave anything on the table. But I would definitely agree with Christian with starting where your topics are at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then there's like non-traditional ways, like, right? Like I forgot to pitch the library and the library reached out to me. It's like, can we buy the book? I'm like, you sure right. Like people do go to the library to get books and they order, books. And I was just like, that's so crazy to me. And then like, there's also just like universities or schools, like, I think sometimes we just think about the bookstores and it's just like, books are sold everywhere, like grocery stores, like they're sold at your FedEx,
airport,
airports, right?
Beauty lines everywhere.
Okay? And ask, can you do book signings there? You can do book signings at Barnes and Noble. I've done plenty of them, right? You can do book signings at the store and do those partnerships with them. So do that. So be open to doing your signings there and doing those creating partnerships with them. If your books sell, they'll continue the partnership. Sometimes it just depends on how you pitch. They'll either buy the books up front, but you just got to make sure that they sell. Or they will ask you for a certain amount and you just have to send people there to make sure they buy them to keep the partnership going. So definitely look at creating partnerships. I always look for long-term things so you can create profit as well.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Tiffany said, what is the best way to approach researching your topic? I'm an expert in the personal experience that I have to share, but not from a medical standpoint. I'm concerned about not offering enough education in addition to sharing my experience.
I would say it's going to depend on your objective for writing. So are you writing it as just sharing your experience or are you giving medical advice on the experience? But that's also going to be something you would bring up to your editor. So write what you have and say, okay, I feel like this may need more research or just researching the topic. I think if you're an expert in your personal experience on it, that you already have some type of knowledge, fill in the blanks, but definitely think about what is your objective? What do you want the reader to get from this? And if you feel like you need to do more medical research, then that would be something you would discuss with your editor.
And you also can interview people that don't have the experience that you have as well, to add that factual and those facts to it, right? Interviewing people that are experts in it, right? So that's another way to get the content that you're going to need as well. And then it's making sure that you give them credit. You're on mute.
I'm talking. I'm like, that's a really cool idea, the interview piece. Yeah, I feel like that would make me nervous, like to offer medical advice if I'm not, I'm always about disclaimers, like this is not legal advice, so offering that advice, I like the workaround of the interview. Dana says, when you self-publish via KDP, does that limit you in other markets?
The only time it will limit you is if you use their free ISBN. And for those who you don't know, KDP is Amazon's version of being able to publish through them. So they offer you a free ISBN when you sign up. I would recommend getting your own. It's a little pricey, but what it does is it lists you as the publisher. If you use theirs, it's going to list Amazon as the publisher, and then that can limit you in other markets. So spend a little bit more money to get your own ISBN. That way you have rights to whatever you want to do with your book.
Yeah, go to booker.com, get your own ISBN, put it on your company. And and then you can go to, Ingram Sparks. Now, when you're doing, it depends on if you go through Ingram Sparks, say you go through Ingram Sparks first, you probably have to use the ISBN number that you want to use there, because sometimes, well, they do know when you go through Ingram Sparks, it's going to put it on Amazon automatically as well too. But if you go and do Amazon first, then you're going to have to use a different ISBN when you go to Ingram Sparks, right? So you go to Amazon, you upload, use a different ISBN, and you go to Ingram Sparks and you upload and use a different ISBN if you go that way. But if you go to Ingram Sparks first, it will go ahead and disperse it to, I'll automatically put it on Amazon. So I tell people, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to run a bestseller campaign, then I would just go ahead and put it on Amazon first and then do Ingram Sparks after that, because you don't want to mess up the campaign. So it just depends. But definitely, I agree with Christian. If you put it under Amazon, though, you're going to have some problems with getting it other places. But always put it under your company. Go to booker.com and put it under you, or however you want to do it, so you own the book.
Yes. Love it, love it, love it. Sorry, I was trying to put all the links in the chat. The other question. We'll check out. Did I miss any?
Yeah, I see one that says you bought ISBNs from Bowker and couldn't use them. Was there a reason why you couldn't use them? So yeah, you do. So each format of the book has to have its own ISBN. So if I write a book and I want to do a paperback and a hard copy, they both have their own ISBN because that's how it's listed. So the ISBN is like a social security number. So even if you have, like when you have twins, they have two different social security numbers, right? So that's how you want to think about the ISBN. So each format has to have its own. Except the Kindle version doesn't have to have one, it's optional. But other than that, it didn't work on Amazon, but now I see why. Oh, okay. If you want to I'll give you my email because I'm not sure what the issue is. But you should have been able to use it on Amazon because I use mine, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, please drop both of your information in the chat. That would be awesome. The other question that we have here is, how do you build relationships with airports and libraries?
Well, I would say it's just going in and talking to them, right? You're going in and talking to them, let them know what you want to do. You're doing your pitch, right? Let them know about your book and what you want to do and what opportunities that they have, right? And normally they'll ask you about your book. Sometimes more than likely the library is going to ask you for a copy of it so they can check it out, see what it's about, right? And then if they determine that it's a good fit, then they'll go ahead, like Christian said before, they will purchase it, because I do have books in the National Library system, right? And so they'll buy the books, and then you can come to book signings with them. So it's a great opportunity to have your books in the library. But it's just a conversation. It's nothing hard. On the airport, same thing. You're going in, you're talking, about your book, you're pitching your book. and they're going to have a conversation with you talking to normally you want to look for the director of sales or director of marketing when you're going in the airport to see what the process is. And you just pretty much follow the process. It's really not hard. It's just pitching, let them know about your book, and then they decide if they want to move forward or not with it.
No, that makes a total sense. Christian, anything to add?
I would also say something I used to do when I first started out was if there was like a local bookstore or a local store where I wanted it, I would have people call them and ask for it before I even called. So it was like building the demand for it, like, you don't got this book? And then I'm like, here it is. So I used to do that, just, if you have people that are willing to make a quick call for you, that's another tip. And social media is the biggest help for us. LinkedIn, find these businesses. They usually want to talk about what they do, build the relationships just like you would at a networking event. And then once you're posting, make sure you're consistent with your posts. A lot of them will reach out to you. Like Keisha said, the library called her, so you have to be consistent and build the relationships at the same time.
And be open. Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scout, Girl Scouts. I done spoke at all of them, right? They want you to come and speak and create these partnerships, right? So do not limit it just to that. It's so many opportunities to do signings, to speak on topics, to have, because you are a speaker. Once you're an author, whether you want to be a speaker or not, you are a speaker. So think about these different speaking opportunities and partnerships you can create. Speaking at DoorDash, just different places that you can create to really take your brand and exposure to the next level. And just thinking about how you can not only do the partnerships with the book signings and how your books can benefit the universities and just these different companies, depending on what it's about. Okay, so just think big when you're thinking about the different ways you can market and really take your brand and your book to the next level.
And just to add to that, think about all the topics in your book. So even if it's fiction, because I love fiction, I have a family dynamic where it's like dysfunctional families. So I'm looking at people who are having programs about dysfunctional families. Even though it's fiction, I still have like, hey, this book will help. So you have to think about all the little things that you can pull from your book to market it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Your book becomes curriculum, and you can pitch yourself to speak and then have them purchase the book as, the required reading. The other thing I'll name is like my TED Talk. The reason I wrote a book in the first place is because I pitched myself to do a TED Talk, and they were like, well, you're not an author. I'm like, okay, I'll be back in 100 days, right? And so that's why I even wrote the book, and then it launched like a whole speaking career. So yes.
And pitch your books for like awards and stuff. Book Fest awards, the National Black Book Festival. I'm part of that. Like, get up on those platforms and network, and that gives you credibility when your book is winning awards and you're part of these festivals and these big book festivals and things like that. So think about those too. Those are great opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I feel like we're at the end of time. Angela, what about you, friend? In terms of building relationships with the library, what can people do?
Well, a lot of what you can do can be shared. You have done a great job just sharing about what the library, as you said, Keisha, the library often will reach out to authors to be able to have their book, purchase it, and figure out if patrons would sign the book out. And then also another opportunity later is to actually be involved with an author event. Where patrons can come on any given evening and purchase the book and hear from you about why you wrote the book and other information that you want to share. So that's another rich opportunity in the library throughout the year. We just started hosting those again. We've been in COVID, so that's another opportunity to be able to share what you've learned to be able to help and empower others.